Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And in this video we're going to be looking at part 9 of the hard mode for the new lost chapter that we receive on Krile. So before we do start guys, I think this will be the last video for the year unless there's new content coming out around after Christmas maybe. But looking at the upcoming events, I don't think there's anything that we're looking for. However, I must say that there is a maintenance happening pretty soon, I believe, and so we might get more information as to what is coming apart from just the New Awakening Part 3, which I probably won't even cover because those kinds of events are pretty easy and they're only usually just co-op, so I might have to give that a pass like I have been in the last few Crystal Awakenings. So with that in mind, let's start this video. As always, we'll start off by looking at the weaknesses and resistance of the last boss. The greatest Malboro actually has a lot of weaknesses, which are fire, thunder, light, and dark weaknesses. It does have 2 resistances to ice and earth elements, so just be careful of that. As for its abilities, it has access to Tentacle Slap, which is a melee brave attack, Impale, which is a melee HP attack, Bad Breath, which is a debuff which has a fair chance of inflicting blind, speed down, and poison on all targets. Next, it has Crunch, which is a melee brave attack and removes own debuffs without frames. Next is Corrode, which is a melee brave attack plus HP attack, which also inflicts poison. Next up is Noxious Saliva, which is a ranged brave attack and also reduces the target's brave by 50% and also inflicts poison, and then he gains brave based on his own max brave. Next up is the Noxious Saliva, which is another ranged brave attack which again reduces the target's brave by 50%, but this time it inflicts poison, attack down, defense down, and speed down as well, and he gains brave again based on his own max brave. In most cases, you'll probably see the Noxious Saliva here in the hard mode rather than the Noxious Saliva. It just makes more sense for the AI to actually pick this ability. And finally, we have Rancid Breath, which is a group brave magic attack which inflicts attack down. Okay, so now that we know the abilities and weaknesses, resistances of the greatest Malboro, it's now time for the general tips and guide. And as always, my first tip for you guys is actually to save about 80 to 90% of your abilities for the last boss. Now, Krile's Lost Chapter is actually back to the 5-wave fight, so this is a longer fight than the previous Lost Chapter on Snow. So, I would suggest to save about 80% of your abilities at maximum, so that you have enough abilities to use on the boss if you're struggling. Now, obviously, if you are not meeting the score requirement to get the event score, you can be a little bit more aggressive, especially if you cleared the fight and you notice that you have a lot more abilities left over. You can for sure use them, and actually if you try to be aggressive, I would be around like maybe 70% of my abilities that I have left untouched. Basically, I would have probably used, like, for example, for Terra, I would have probably used like like 3 or 4 of her abilities, and then would have saved the rest for the boss. But in any case, I think if you do have level 60 characters anyway, this rule doesn't really apply to you too much, because this really applied more so if you are using level 50 characters. Now my next tip is to bring in the boosted characters such as Krile, Cecil, and Yuffie in this case. But if you don't have those characters, other characters you can consider bringing are a multitude of other characters actually. And honestly, I can't list them all in this video, but the ones that come into mind are Vaughn, Lena, Papalimo, Cloud, Noctis, Shantotto, which I actually forgot in the last video, and I want to thank Amaterasu 1991 for pointing that out. Thank you very much. Next is Warrior of Light, and honestly guys, we're about to get our third set of awakened characters, and there's a lot of them, and you can definitely use them. They're all going to be level 60, so you can definitely use them. Now healers are again optional in this fight. Brave batteries are probably more worth bringing, again like Y'shtola, Yuna, and Lilith. Out of the 3, really, I feel like Yuna is the best one because she can take off the debuffs on you as well. As for the summon, honestly, you can pick any of the weaknesses for the boss, but I still prefer Ifrit. Ifrit is probably still my favorite summon out of everyone, just because of the extra 20% attack. But you can definitely bring other summons such as Bahamut. Ramu can take advantage of the lightning or thunder weakness, sorry. Alexander with the holy weakness. So there are a bunch of summons that you can bring, but I still feel like Ifrit is the best choice. Now let's take a look some general tips and guide for the fight itself. Now, as always, I like to point out when you want to use your summon. Honestly, I would use it at the start to get rid of one of the Malboro ASAP. The only reason being is that you don't really want to deal with 2 debuffers. It's fine if they're targeting the same character like what happened here in this video, but in the off chance that they are targeting 2 different characters, then you're dealing with 2 debuff characters. And if for some reason your buff remover or your buffer is a little bit on the side, then in the turn order, then you will have to deal with those debuffs for a little while. So I honestly feel like having to summon at the start is actually a great way for you to lessen the trouble for this fight. But as always, you can also summon it when you feel like you're in a bit of a bind. It's just I would have preferred the first option. Now the next tip is to bring in Lena or Yuna to prevent or get rid of the debuffs. You can also bring buffers like Saz, still a good one because he's giving you like 3 in one go, to push out the debuffs. And this is an option for you guys out there if you don't have Lena powered up or even Yuna powered up, then you can bring buffers to push them out. The last one is to try and limit the times you're getting broken. And this is if you're not confident about the turn order. Basically, Corrode, which is the Brave plus HP attack, can end up one-shotting you, especially if they have used Toxic Saliva or Noxious Saliva prior to that, because they are gaining the more Brave, and if you get broken too much, you might just get one hit. And you probably saw in this video that my Yuna actually survived with 1 HP, and it's only thanks to her ability. That's why she didn't die. So that's just something to think about, guys. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the possible party compositions. And again, the first one is just going to be straight up the boosted characters because they have 50% more stats and they are pretty much awakened at this point. As for the support, I do recommend Terra because she's probably the best support at the moment, especially if you're using your support with the summon combo. Again, Noctis and Cloud are there because they have their EX ability. They do decent amount of damage as well. Plus, if you guys wait until the third awakening, you can definitely bring someone else. As for the summon, I pick Ifrit because Ifrit again is my most favorite summon and probably the most useful one if you are trying to brave shave off the Toxic Saliva and Noxious Saliva. The next one here is the Vaughn Yuna Terra combo, again with the same type of support and again Ifrit summon. This is basically a much more DPS orientated approach, especially with Vaughn. You can take advantage of one of the weaknesses of the greatest Malboro, which is the holy element. You do have to be careful with Red Spiral though, because it does resist the ice element that it brings with its second attack. Now for the next one I have here is probably something you won't be using until the awakening happens later this week, which is Squall, Yuna, and Lightning. Basically, Squall is gonna be buffed off so much, he's gonna be one of the greatest DPS, I suppose. And Lightning as well will do pretty well in this particular fight. And as for support, I do have Terra here as well. Again, you can pick out of the three, but I still feel like Terra is the best one. You can definitely pick someone else, anyone in the level 60 bracket. As for the summon, I have Ifrit here again, but I just want to reiterate that you do have to wait for the awakening before you want to try this one out. As for the last one is basically an alternative. If you don't have Squall, you can bring Noctis here as well with Lightning and Yuna. And again, Terra support and Ifrit summon. Now guys, I do have to tell you that Yuna here is replaceable by Lina. If you prefer preventing the debuff from happening, Lina is probably your best choice. But if you just feel like you just want to remove it straight up, plus Yuna is a better brave battery, you can bring Yuna as I have listed down here. So I guess that's it for the general tips and guides and party composition. Now my final thoughts on this fight. Well, I feel like because this is a 5-wave fight, it's a little bit more interesting than the snow fight. I feel like this is obviously a tad bit harder than the snow fight, but at the same time it's not, it's not that hard, I would say. I even brought my Krile here and got it on my first try. Basically, my Krile here is level 53 with level 51 crystal passive. I sort of just unlocked the 51 crystal passive so I can level Krile up, and I just decided to go ahead with it. Now my Krile does have the 15 CP passive and has the level 35 CP weapon, but they are not limit broken in any way. So I suppose bringing a Krile here makes it so it looks like it's really easy, and honestly it's not that hard. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not that hard, especially once you have taken one out of the greatest Malboro. Then you won't have much to worry about. One thing that I would like to say though, with the list of characters that I have, like the optional characters that you can bring, keep in mind that some of them actually have a downside to bringing here. In a way, just like Papalymo. Papalymo has the fire and ice abilities, so technically using the ice abilities on the greatest Malboro is not the greatest of choice. So, but you can use the fire-based abilities. So just keep that in mind, that even though I listed all these characters, it doesn't mean that they're 100% like, super effective. The same thing can be said for Y'shtola with her stone ability. While the greatest Malboro does resist it, because the stone can push the greatest Malboro's turn order means it's effective in a way, and plus you'll get some Brave, which means Y'shtola's next ability, Medica 2, that you will get provided with a lot more Brave later on. So just something to keep in mind. Now, some people probably like heard that and typed in the comment section, Monch, you know, the greatest Malboro is actually resistant to this and that, but they are still effective throughout the fight. That's all I want to say. But I think that's it for this video. I think I'll leave the video right here. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, follow me on Twitter at MunchkinsGaming if you haven't already. Don't worry, I'm not a spammer, so I won't be spamming a lot. Usually it's just when I release the video that you will see my posts or my tweets. And you can also add me as a friend in Facebook at MunchkinsGaming if you want. You can ask me questions there. You can DM me and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. And for the question of this particular fight, I suppose we'll stick with what team did you use? Or, you know, like I said, the more obscure team, the better. I really like those teams that are quite out of the way, and it's just very interesting for me to read up and probably try as well, especially if I have those characters leveled up or if I have their weapons. So yeah, I think that's it. And oh, if I missed anything, leave it down in the comments below as well. You might get a shout out in the next video. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.